Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you do have a voice, you have a community, and you are never ever alone. And here on Invisible Condition, we understand that life can be difficult. Living with an invisible condition can be dicey sometimes, right? I'm 7 brain surgeries in. I get it. Okay. I get it. So the thing is, the thing that I want you to remember is that there is always hope. And so I'm telling you, some days I lose a little bit of that too. So if you're in a spot where you have stumbled in that and you're wondering like, where the heck is the hope? Shoot me an email. Seriously, I want to hear from you. Here's an email that you can use, jeff@hydrowithhope.com. That's actually our email for our nonprofit, but it's got the word hope right in there. Why not? So shoot me an email there, and we can talk. Just put hope in the subject line. So all right, now I also want to talk to you about our nonprofit, Hydro with Hope, just briefly. And so our nonprofit is basically geared towards people living with the condition called hydrocephalus, which is the condition that I was lucky enough to be born with and has resulted in those 7 brain surgeries and all kinds of other fun things. And so I know firsthand that this condition can be really crazy to live with. And so we have an amazing journal that we developed that's a fill-in-the-blank journal that people can use to chronicle their journey through all this brain surgery stuff and hospital stays and doctor's visits and medical facts and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot. Okay. So we have a journal for you to contain it all in, and then you can bring it to your appointments and you don't have to be lost. You have it all right there. I also love to speak with families and talk to families and help them through that, if they need it. And I don't know, there's just a lot to it. And so we want to help. So if you would like to, actually, you know what? I have a link here for you too. If you'd like to donate to Hydro with Hope, there is a great link to do that, because none of what I'm talking about is free, right? Everything costs money, and nonprofits are always fundraising. So I thank you in advance for anything you can do there. So, all right, let's talk about our guest, because I'm pretty excited for you to meet him. Wesley Farnsworth is an author. He's a speaker. Let's take that down. There we go. He is an author, a speaker, a U.S. Air Force veteran whose story is rooted in faith, recovery, and transformation. Man, I love Air Force. We're in Colorado Springs, so we've got Air Force all around us. It's awesome. Air Force Academy, 2 Air Force bases. It's great. So as a preacher's kid who struggled with addiction, Wesley knows firsthand what it's like to carry invisible battles behind the public image. So totally. So through his book, The Blueprint of Becoming, and his work with churches and nonprofits, he shares a powerful message. You are not defined by what you've done, but by who God says you are. I love that. Sometimes it's hard to hear sometimes what God says and who he says you are, but maybe we'll talk about that today. I don't know. So he joins us today to talk honestly, man, about identity, redemption, all the things. Finish finding purpose on the other side of the struggle. It's going to be good, man. I'm excited to have him. Let's bring him on the show here. There he is. Wesley, thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff, for having me. I love the idea behind your show, and I'm looking forward to jumping in and talking about the invisible conditions that I think many people carry with them.
Bring it, right? Seriously, there's more people than people even care to admit, probably, that are, yeah. So yes, let's dive in. Actually, first, before we dive in, I have one question that I like to ask everybody that comes on the show, because I love the answer. So, I'm the host, I get to do it. So I'm going to ask you a question, and there's no wrong answer, but on the days that were rough, on the days that were darkest, during everything, how did you still maintain hope?
A lot of that just comes from my upbringing. As growing up in the church, as I'll talk about, I was a pastor's kid, and my dad was a full-time evangelist. And as a result of being a pastor's kid, I there were weeks that it felt like if the church was open, we were there. If
Yeah.
the janitor was there cleaning, we were there to watch. We just were always at the church. And so faith has been an integral part of my life from as early as I can remember. And honestly, it's that faith that kept me going, despite wanting to, in some cases, give up at times.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And we'll definitely talk about that, because I know, because the the PK thing is real. And I know a lot of people who are preacher's kids, and I know some of them that went down that word that turned out well, and then there's sometimes it doesn't turn out so well. And sometimes they go completely the opposite direction. And so, yeah, it's a thing for sure. So, so as that preacher's kid, what did you feel? Was there like extra pressure? Did you feel like there was like extra pressure on you? Was it just because your dad was the guy, right? Like, was that hard for you, or was that not a big deal?
Yeah, well, one thing that is unique about my story is I'm a preacher's kid, but my dad was a full-time evangelist. So essentially what that means, if you're not familiar with the term, an evangelist is a pastor, but he's basically a traveling pastor. So he would travel the country and speak at any church that would have him. And so while he was traveling, my mom and my brothers and I, we would be home in our home church. But she was also involved in ministry in a lot of different ways too. And so it was kind of really a family ministry, a family, just a way of my life. And so, and I just completely blanked on your question. Ask me that.
No worries, man. Happens to the best of us. You know what? I feel like I'm the one that blanks most of the time, man. It's all good. You answered it. You answered it beautifully. It's all good. I was just curious about what the craziness, the pressures and the craziness comes with that, but I didn't realize, some people say evangelist and they put that hand in hand with pastor or preacher or whatever, so I thought maybe he had like a home church or something that you guys were like in charge of, but on the road a lot. That's a lot too.
Yeah, he was on the road a lot. We had our home church, but it wasn't like a home church that he was a pastor of. It was the church that my mom and my brothers and I would go to, and he would be, on the road and would join us when he was home. But as far as like pressures, there's always that pressure as a pastor's kid. People knew who we were. They knew what we were. They knew my mom was a pastor's wife and I was a pastor's kid. They knew that stuff. But there weren't necessarily pressures that people were putting on us to act certain ways or do certain things or anything like that. Now, I did have those pressures, and I talk about that in my story, but they were self-imposed pressures because I felt like I had to act a certain way. I had to say certain things. I had to do certain things in order to reflect positively on my parents, on the church, on God. And all of those types of things. So were pressures there? Yes, but they were self-imposed pressures, not those put on by other people. Nobody sat me down and said, "Okay, Wesley, here's what's expected of you. Here's how you have to act. Here's what you have to say."
You know what? That's almost, I'm not a preacher's kid, so I don't know firsthand, but I've almost imagined that being worse than if they would have just sat down and said, "All right, man, here's the deal. You're a preacher's kid, so this is what we expect," right? Because that's left up to your imagination.
Yeah.
And as a young person, that's almost dangerous when you don't have the boundaries of, was that worse or was that okay? Like,
that's true. Yeah.
I don't know.
You leave things up to the imagination of a kid and you never know what you're going to get.
Really, kids and adults, man. I'm telling you, my imagination runs away with stuff if I'm not careful too. And it's, oh my gosh. Well, so, and when you say your story, are you talking about the book you've got back there? It's just my story, my book, my everything. I talk about it in a lot of different ways. Nice. Well, I'm gonna, just for kicks. Actually, first, let me do this real quick. By the way, everybody, hi. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everybody that's here, and thank you for being here, and thank you for being part of our audience and watching. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube and Wesley or I say something that sparks anything in your mind that you want to ask or challenge or comment on or whatever, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you know what to do. Throw a comment in there, and we'll keep up with you and see if we can answer you back and keep the conversation going. And then also, this is your website, and what are people going to find when they go there? Obviously, your book, but what else will they find when they get there?
Yeah, I do speaking events. I speak at churches. I have my book. I have my podcast, Unmasked with Wesley Farnsworth, which you can see on the computer screen behind me. I've got the logo there.
Nice.
So I do a number of different things. So you can find that. You can. I have a blog there where anytime I do a podcast interview or I go out and speak or anything, I do a recap out there. So you can find all kinds of information out there. I also have freebies that I give away.
Cool.
On my podcast, I have several mini series coming up, and each one of those mini series has a devotional that I've put together to accompany it. And so those are out there free of charge on my website. And then I also have a guide. So my book, I actually turned into a study for small groups, and it's a 10-week study. Each chapter, you go through it chapter by chapter each week. And so it turns the book into a 10-week study. And I have that
Nice.
that bundle out there on my website as well, with both a leader's guide and a participant's guide, so that one person can kind of lead the discussion and everybody can get the most out of it. So that's all out on my website, as well as information on how to contact me and all that fun stuff.
Man, awesome. So this is the book, and then the workbook and the leader's book, kind of all three kind of come together for the study, and everybody gets the book, and then everybody gets the workbook, right? That's
Right.
the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. The idea is you go out, you buy the book. It's available on paperback or ebook.
Cool.
You can go out and buy all that online anywhere books are sold. And then you can go out to my website and download the free participants guide. I don't charge anything for it. Community is so important. I speak on it all the time. And so, especially when you're working through life issues, and you're trying to make changes, or you're going through major medical stuff or anything like that, it's just so important that you have a solid community behind you. And so that's why I offer this study guide free of charge for my book, because I want you to be able to have a community behind you as you work through things.
That's beautiful. It's awesome. And that's the way it should be. I mean, that's why I don't know. I don't know what church you all go to out there, but the church that we go to does a lot of that benevolent type stuff too. You know, it's like men's retreats or women's retreats or youth retreats or couples or anything, Bible studies. It's like, look, if you can't afford it, or you can't, you know, like a lot of the stuff is free, but if there are materials that they got to pay for, it's like, you know, that's a beautiful thing, you know, pay for it for them, you know, and then everybody can have access to it. That's the way to do it, man. Well done. Because I don't think everybody else does it like that. I don't know. That's cool.
It's very common for authors to put something like that together and sell it as an additional expense. But I have a heart behind community. I have a heart behind people helping people step into their becoming, or step into the path that God has put for them.
Yeah.
And so, as I was kind of praying about what to do with this guide, he's like, just put it out there free of charge. And so that's what I did.
Yeah. Love it. And I love that you listened. You prayed, and then you said, put it out for free. You put it out for free. That's a beautiful thing. That's a whole nother topic right there. But so along with all that, okay, so you've got the guide, you've got for other people that are struggling. You kind of came from that too, though. I mean, that's why you're doing what you're doing, right? You had some struggles that you were kind of pushing through with addiction and different stuff like that, identity, conflicts of things. Like, how did that start? When did that start, and what was like? How did that come about?
Yeah. So around the age of 15, I was out with some friends one day, and now looking back at it, I realize that I deal with an issue, or a I don't know, but illness isn't the right term. But we'll just say issue of
Sure.
codependency. And if you're not familiar with what codependency is, let me just tell you real quick.
Yeah.
It is essentially caring more about what other people think about you than what you think about yourself, and more importantly, what God thinks about you. And so essentially you're a people pleaser in layman's term. You seek the approval of others. And so I was out with friends, and somebody said something, a term I knew nothing about. And so and all the friends, they started laughing, right? They started having a good time around it. They're bantering back and forth, and me being completely clueless, I'm laughing, trying to fit in, whatever. Like, but inside, I'm going, please don't call on me. Please don't call on me. Please don't ask me anything. I'm gonna get found out, right? But I didn't want that to happen again. What if I'm out with friends again and they say something like that again? It's only going to go so long before they call on me. And so I went home that night and I researched this term. I said, what is this term?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was one of sexual nature, and the world of pornography was opened up to me. And so that opened up a curiosity, which soon turned into an addiction that I struggled with for many years. And so that's kind of where the blueprint of becoming comes from. Is for many years I tried to defeat it, and I wasn't able to. It's one of those things that's just really hard to kick. And so it wasn't until about 6.5 years ago, that I was able to finally kick it. And it's all through the grace of God, and it's all through, this amazing ministry called Celebrate Recovery.
Yes.
That I'm a part of.
Love that ministry. Yeah.
Yep. If you've not heard of Celebrate Recovery before, it is a Christian, Christ-centered 12-step recovery program.
Yep.
And the beautiful thing about this program is it is not just for drugs and alcohol, which is what everybody thinks of when you think of recovery.
Sure.
But Celebrate Recovery is for any kind of life hurt, habit, or hang up. And people ask me, well, can I go? And I say, if you wake up this morning and you can hear me and you're human, you're qualified to go. Because I guarantee you, everybody has been hurt in some way, shape, or form during their life. So they have a hurt. Well, right there, any kind of hurt, habit, or hang up. If you have a hurt in your life at any point, you're qualified to go. If you have any hang up, if you just like to pick your nose, or you hate the color blue, whatever it is, you can come and you'll be loved and you'll be accepted. You don't have to share. You just come and listen.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready, you can talk.
You know what, man? I love that group, by the way. I was part of a Celebrate Recovery group I was on the worship team with one for a long time, for like a year. And it was one of the coolest groups I've ever been a part of.
Yeah. I love it.
It was amazing. And it met in the local church. It met in the church that we were going to at the time. And yeah. But it's not a church thing either, right? Like you don't have to go to church you don't have to go to that church to be there. You don't have to, it's none of that. It's just come, man.
Yeah. You just show up as you are. You don't have to get dressed up. Most of us that show up wearing jeans and t-shirts, right? I mean, flip flops, it doesn't matter. I mean, and people from all walks of life come, and it's just an amazing experience, an amazing group to be a part of. And you can find one of those at crlocator.com. Just plug in your zip code. It is a global ministry now. So, doesn't matter where you're located and you're listening to this, chances are there's one not too far from you. Go out and check it out. At
least one. Yeah. Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
But yes, so it all comes from my as I got going in Celebrate Recovery. Can I talk about the book here for a second?
Oh, absolutely.
As I got going in Celebrate Recovery, the very first week that one of the first weeks that I attended, somebody was sharing a testimony, and there was something in the testimony that kind of spurred on this thought in my head. And as I'm going through and I'm processing this thought, and I'm talking about it in the open share group with the other men, the more I talked about it, the more the idea kind of started to shift. And so the initial idea that played in my head was this scene from the movie A Knight's Tale.
Okay.
And in the movie, in the scene, this knight is parading down the road, and there's a little boy in the audience, and the boy says, "I want to be like him when I grow up." And of course, the dad is like, "Well, absolutely, you can do that, son." And then there's, of course, the nearby guy that has to give his unwanted opinion. And he says, "No, you can't do that. You can't change your stars. You're just a peasant boy. You can never become like him. You can never become part of royalty." And as I began to kind of play that scene over and over again in my head and kind of flush it out, I could not shake it. God began to change those ideas, that idea in my mind. And he said, Wes, as when you come to Christ, when you are struggling with something and you give it to me, you are changing your stars. You are no longer that peasant boy. You are now a part of my family. You are now royalty. You are now just like that knight. You can change your stars. And so as that began playing out, I started to realize, okay, we can change our stars, but how do we navigate life in a way that is pleasing to God, and how do we make sure that our life is pointing in the direction that he wants us to go?
Yeah.
And then, so this idea just kept formulating in my mind, right? It just kept stewing on it for a while.
Yeah.
And I kind of realized, in nautical terms, in nautical times, when sailors are out on the water and they need to guide their ship, one of the things that they use is stars.
Yep.
And so I began to realize that in life, everything that we do, every decision we make, every job that we have, every relationship we have, everything is a star in our life's constellation. And in order to ensure that we're navigating life properly, our north star has to be the brightest star.
Right.
And for that to be true and to walk in alignment with what God wants it, then our north star has to be God. And if our north star isn't God, then our life, or our ship, if you will, is going to veer off course, and we're not going to be walking in full alignment.
100%.
And so if you are off course, then now you need to realign yourself to continue to walk in your blueprint of becoming, the blueprint that he has put out for you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that means surgically removing a star or letting a star burn out.
Yeah.
And so how do you determine what that star is? And then how do you do it? And so the book, The Blueprint of Becoming, I talk about my personal testimony in the first couple of chapters. I share with you experiences coming up as a pastor's kid, how my faith was formed. And then we dig in and we look at 2 or 3 biblical stories of people that were used by God for very big things, like Moses.
Oh, yeah.
Despite their past, people that were adulterers, people that were murderers, people that, were prostitutes, that by worldly examples, we would say, hey, you're not qualified to do that. But God says you are qualified because I called you and I love you. So we look at some of those stories, and then I give you practical tools to use in your own life to examine your life and determine what areas might need to be adjusted, if you will, and how to do that. So that's essentially the book in a nutshell. And it was a long road to bring it to market, but I'm so excited that it's out, and the feedback that I've been getting has just been phenomenal.
I love that. That is phenomenal. And it's worth every second that it took to get out there, because I'm sure it is just changing lives left and right. And I want to talk more about that, because I kind of want to dive in there a little bit, but we're going to go to a break real quick. And then when we come back, you were mentioning some stuff about the different, they're like heroes in the Bible. People think about Moses and they're like, oh my gosh, Moses or Paul or, Noah or, all these people. But it's like, these are like David is my favorite example. Like he was an adulterer and a murderer, but he was Jesus literally said he was a man after his own heart, How does that even happen? So I'd love to talk a little bit about those guys or, some of those stories because I feel like it reinforces it a little bit, but let's go to a break real quick and then we'll come back and pick up where we left off. So everybody stick around. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to, Wesley, I'll see you in just a couple of minutes. Now, for those of you that have been watching for a minute, you know that I am a straight up coffee nerd, and so I'm going to talk about that for a second because when it comes to coffee, I'm kind of that guy. Coffee nerd for years. I have no problem admitting that. If a bag of coffee doesn't have a roast date on there that's been the last couple of weeks, I don't want to drink it because it's probably not great. And so that's why I like Mike with roast to order coffee, because roast to order coffee gets it. They roast the beans fresh, they ship them to your door, and they're always coming up with new and amazing varieties, delivery methods. For instance, they were, people were like, you know what? You don't have any flavored coffee. Now he does because he listens. You don't have anything that I can use for my K-cup Keurig thing. Well, now he does. So he listens to his audience, and it's awesome. And so his coffee is incredible. And so I'm going to go refill mine in a minute, but I just wanted to let you know that whether you love Ethiopian, right, light roast, espresso, decaf, flavored coffee, the little pods, whatever, he's got you covered. He's got e-gift cards and coffee subscriptions. Kick the new year off with a coffee subscription for somebody you love that loves coffee. Scan the QR code to do that, and you will get 20% off your first purchase. All right, everybody, I will see you on the other side.
Hey everybody, Craig Tominini here, founder and CEO of Ask Craig T, and I wanted to do a quick reminder about our podcast every Friday, 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. You can find us on YouTube and on all of our social media platforms, so be sure you tune in. Don't miss all the valuable information we're going to give you about how to scale your business using technology.
Hey there. Every time someone comes into your business or website and uses their card to pay, a percentage of that gets folded back into the system. But it can go to Hydro with Hope instead. If you'd like your business to support us rather than feed back into the system, scan the QR code and we'll show you how to do that while saving your business money.
Hi, I'm Jake, co-founder and CEO of One Hope. My friends and I started this company in 2007 out of the back of this truck on a mission to enrich people's lives through wine. Today, we've grown into a state-of-the-art Napa Valley winery that proudly houses a portfolio of award-winning wines which have touched lives through over 40,000 nonprofits at home and around the globe. And it's happening every day. Being rooted in local communities and contributing to initiatives that uplift neighborhoods, celebrate cultures, and promote community. It's what got us here. You see, through every bottle sold, your purchase can make a direct impact on the causes you care about. One Hope's cause of choice has given back over $10 million and counting.
Hi, I'm Sarah Stockham, and I'm host of Simply Sarah. Join me Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific on the Achieve TV network for the best energetic tools to elevate your amazing life right here on E360 TV.
welcome back, everybody, and thank you for watching wherever you're watching. We appreciate you. We're thankful that you're here. Engage. If you are watching this and and this story is resonating with you, like, come on, like we said before the break, anybody, like, honestly, if you fog up a mirror, you qualify probably to visit somewhere. There's a Celebrate Recovery chapter for you, because everybody's got something, right? So that's my qualifier. If you fog up a mirror, you look, yep, you're good, you qualify. So and then there's the website again. Definitely go there. There are tons of tools there, one of which is this book right here. I should probably take that down so we can see the book. And yeah, so we were talking about, I think before a break, I mentioned you started talking about some of the people, like, you know, people are talking about, well, I can't do that because I'm not qualified, or I've made this mistake, or I've had this, you know, invisible medical condition or mental condition maybe, or whatever. But some of the biggest, most profound people in the Bible were I mean, we're all fallen humans, but man, some of them really had it up to the eyeballs, man. It was, I mean, what Dave, I think, David was the one I mentioned before the break, right? The guy, I mean, he's got that crazy, one of the craziest stories, because it involves lust, but it also involves murder. Like every man listening right now, if you say that you've never had lust in your life, first of all, you're lying. And second of all, it's probably because you don't want to talk about it. But just this went even further, and he ended up murdering somebody because he wanted his wife so bad. Yeah. And he ended up being one of the greatest people after God's own heart in the Bible. So the point is, there's always hope, right?
Yeah. You know, I often say my calling, for my phrase, if you will, that I've kind of gone and adopted over the last few months, especially, and you mentioned it earlier, is that it doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what others have done to you. It doesn't matter how you were brought up. Those things don't define you. The only thing that defines you is who you say you are, and more importantly, who God says that you are. And when you think about biblical characters, those are some great examples, right? I mean, yeah, we can talk about my story all day, and the fact that I had an addiction and things like that, but I'm not letting that define me. You know, and right. I want to talk real quick about that before I talk about a biblical character, based on what you were 100%. Sharing. You know, people often ask me, Wesley, how can you talk so freely about your addiction? And it doesn't matter what the addiction is. I could be talking about drugs. I could be talking about alcohol. I could be talking about abuse. I could talk about anything. But how can you talk so freely? And I tell people, I say, you know, we all have something in our life that we're not proud of, right? Sure. We've all made a decision that we're not proud of. The problem is that the enemy, the devil, he wants us to live in shame. He wants us to live in fear. And when we don't talk about those things that we've done, that is exactly what we're doing. We're keeping it hidden instead of talking about it, because we are afraid. We are ashamed of the things that we've done. I can't change my past. I can't change the things that I've done, but I can choose to not let those things define me. And so I prefer to bring it to the light and talk about it, not to make money. I don't make money from my book. I can tell you that right now.
No. I've got a book out there too, man. I can identify.
If you've ever written a book, you are not rolling in the dough. I can tell you that right now.
Not the majority of us, for sure. Yeah,
unless you're one of those like top 3 authors that get paid millions of dollars or whatever, exactly. To write it. Right. And that is not me. So I don't talk about the addiction to raise money, right? Or to live off of, because it's not going to get me there. I do it because I would rather talk about it and keep it in the light and tell people about it and give people the hope that change is possible if they only allow it to come into the light and they are willing to talk about it. Because when you talk about it, the more you talk about it, the less power it has over you in your life. And when you stop talking about it, now it can creep back into the darkness. And as it creeps back into the darkness and into the shadows, now it becomes that secret again that you have to fight all over again to bring it out into the light.
Yeah.
And so, and when that happens, now the enemy has a foothold again. He has that chip to dangle over your head. Right. And so I would rather talk about it and keep it in the light, because I fought too hard to get rid of it in the first place. And so I'm not proud of it, I'm also not going to let it define me. And so now I'm an author. Now I'm a podcast host. Now I'm a speaker, and I talk about that thing and so many others, in order to bring hope to people. And so I love that you mentioned David as one of the biblical characters, because David is one of my favorite.
He always sticks out to me. I don't know why. David is the one that always sticks out. Yeah.
David, Joseph, and Job are probably three of my favorite stories.
Yeah. Joseph too. Yeah.
But I mean, when you think about David, real quick, David, here he is. He's a shepherd boy, right?
Yep.
He's in the field watching his sheep, kills a lion, kills a bear with the strength of God, all these things. To you and me and everybody else, if we were walking down the road and David was walking towards us, number one, we would probably cross the other side, because he's probably stinks and is raggedy clothes.
Smell, yeah.
But we would not think, oh, here comes a king.
Right.
But yet David was just this peasant boy, right? This shepherd in the fields. He gets sent to the front lines to take supplies to his brother who's battling the Philistines. And there's Goliath. Yep. And he says, who's going to take me on? And all the other soldiers, the trained soldiers, mind you, with armor and spears and shields and everything else that they had at the time, they're all like, not me, it's going to be him. And here's David, no armor, no slings or no spears, no anything, just him and his slingshot. And he comes walking up and goes, oh, I'll do it.
I got this.
Here, hold my beer for That's
right. Here's hold my lunch for a second.
Yeah,
I'll be right back. Yeah.
He comes up and he says, I'm not doing this under my own power, right? I have the strength of God within me, and he gives all glory to God, and he does, and he puts that stone in and he launches it, and down falls Goliath, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And he does all, he does so much in his lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned, that with the adultery and stuff like that, he does all this thing, but despite all that, God still uses him. And so he goes from the shepherd in the field to a king of a nation. Yeah. Or you have Joseph, who was literally sold into slavery by his brothers.
That cracks me up. I don't have any brothers, but seriously, could you imagine? Yeah.
I mean, so you have this guy that is literally sold into slavery.
That's next level.
And only by the grace of God is he able to navigate life, and ends up being in the king's court, and then becomes basically the go-to person. And when his own brothers come before him years later, they don't even know who he is.
Right. They didn't recognize him because they figured he's dead.
Exactly. Or and then you have the story of Job, and here's a guy that had so much happen to him in his lifetime as a way of testing him in his faith. The enemy, the devil, kept saying, hey, I want to do this to him, and I want to do this to him, and I want to do this to him. And God was like, okay, but you can't take his life.
Right.
And despite all of that, Job was able to stay faithful and persevere through it. It wasn't all easy. And that's what I love about all three of these stories.
Yeah.
All three of these biblical characters had trials in their life. You know, the Bible never says, God never says that our lives are going to be easy. We're all going to have struggles. We're all going to have that invisible condition that we're struggling with, whether it be a medical illness, an addiction, you know, that hidden shame, that addiction. It doesn't matter what it is. We all have something that's invisible that we're keeping bottled up and inside of us.
Yeah.
They did too.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But we all, when you choose to not let it define you and walk in the grace and forgiveness of God and walk in the blueprint that He has laid out for you, then the road becomes a little bit easier.
Right.
And you're able to experience the things that He has for you. And that's exactly what happened with all three of these characters, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what's happened in my own life. You know, I'm by no means saying I'm going to be a king or anything like David but the stories are the same. When you look at stories in the Bible, and that's one thing I love about the Bible is everyone's like, well, the Bible was so long ago, it doesn't apply to me today.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, look at the stories and forget about specifics, right? Okay. Take king out and put president. Take king out and put business owner.
Right.
You know, they all have the titles are not what's important. What's important is the story behind it and the transformation and the journey that each person went on. Yeah. And all of that is just as applicable today as it was then.
Yep.
Times have changed. Technology has changed. You know, Bible times, we wouldn't be sitting here through a computer screen miles apart having conversations like this, sharing stories around the world, you know, on a podcast. We would be going out in groups of 2, standing on a corner and saying, hey, you know, be saved. But so times and technology has changed, but the stories haven't.
Right.
And so that's what I love. I love looking at different stories like that. And those aren't even ones I use in the Bible or in my book, excuse me.
Yeah.
That you look at them and you're like, wow, those do apply to me. And so that's what I love.
Yeah, exactly. If you take like you said, to take the titles out and leave the humanity in, and it's not that far fetched. I mean, most of those stories in there are not that far fetched from. I mean, there's issues of alcoholism in the Bible. There's issues of sexual, you know, addiction in the Bible. There's all kinds of stuff that, like, if you read it in the right context, it's relatable. It's so relatable.
Yeah, you can find alcoholism, you can find murder, you can find prostitution, you can find everything that you can find today, minus cyber crimes and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, everything that you can find today, the moral crimes, if you will, were just as prevalent then as they are today, and you can find examples of them in the shared in the Bible.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Well, so after all of that, and after 6 years of being free from that, which is awesome. Praise God. That's amazing. What does that look like? What is a healthy, grounded life look like? What is it? What is, you know, what can people, maybe there's somebody watching right now and they're like, I'm there, man. I'm in the throes of it, but I don't know if that'll ever be possible for me. How do I even start to get there? You know, what would be your first, if you're sitting in front of a guy with a coffee or something in a coffee shop, and he asks you that question, what would you tell him?
Yeah. You know, the first thing I tell him is, you know, if you're listening today and you're like, man, that's me, Wesley, man, that's me, Jeff. I'm battling this thing and I know that I need to change. I just don't know how to change it. Number one, the fact that you know that you need to change something is the first step.
Yep.
You have already taken the first step to change. So change is possible. Okay. Number two comes back to the community aspect that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to be honest, not only with yourself, but with another human being. So I would encourage you, find somebody, find a friend, find a pastor, find somebody, anybody that you can trust to be honest with. And you know what? If you're listening today and you can't find that person, go to my website, scan that QR code, and use my contact form and contact me. Shoot me an email and say, hey, here's what I'm dealing with.
Yep.
And just, or I'm sure Jeff would say the same thing.
Yeah.
Because when you are able to voice that to another human being, you are bringing it into light, just like I talked about earlier. And now it's going to start to lose power over you. And now you can begin to take steps to walk in that freedom. And that's why I so freely mention Celebrate Recovery. I'm not sponsored by them. They don't know that I talk about them as much as I do on my podcast interviews.
Yeah.
I talk about it on my own podcast, Unmasked with Wesley Farnsworth. And I offer coaching services. Go out to my website. I offer coaching services. If you don't I don't want to go to a recovery meeting, then contact me. Let's set up something one-on-one. Yeah. I don't have set prices. I do it on a case-by-case basis with each person.
Nice.
Because I want people to have the ability to have somebody in their life that they can talk to without fear of judgment, without fear of, of being looked at wrongly, right? It's so important that you have that in your life. And so that's what I tell people. Accept that you have something that you need to change. And when you're able to admit it and identify that thing, now you have to start the work. And part of that is being willing to admit it to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard a phrase 20 years ago, probably more, that has always stuck with me. And it's along those lines. And it said, when the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same, you'll change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's one of the things is, I often hear people like, well, I have a friend or my dad or my mom or my brother or my husband or my best friend's Bob, my best friend's friend twice removed or whatever, they need to change. I'm going to bring them to the meeting. I'm going to do this. If that's you listening, you can't make somebody change. You have to, if change is going to happen, you have to want to change yourself, right? That's the only way change is going to take place. But I often hear people, they'll say, but why? I don't know if I want to change, right? And people,
why do I have to change? They need to change. Yeah.
and here's what I tell people, if you're on the fence about changing, let me tell you this. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, if you're on the fence about changing, it's because you are so used to and comfortable with your life the way it is with that thing in it. And so change is scary. You don't know what your life looks like without that thing in it, without that addiction in it, without that habit in it, without that whatever.
Yeah.
And so you're afraid of making that change. And when you're afraid of making that change, it keeps you right where the enemy wants you. And so I tell people, you know what? If you have that thing in your life that you want to get rid of, then there's a reason that thing has come up and has been brought to your mind. And I encourage you to try and get rid of it. And then you know what? When, not if, when you get rid of it, if you don't like what life looks like without that thing in it after a few weeks, I guarantee you know how to get it back.
Yeah, right. It's true. Well, that's the thing though. If you get something, if you take something bad out of your life, it leaves a hole there, and you got to fill it with something. So if you don't fill it with something good, that's going to creep right back in there. No problem.
It will. And that's where it's important to have not only, like I mentioned, community, but you have to set yourself up for success and be biblically sound. One of the things I have people always ask me is, Wesley, what do you do to make sure that you are rooted in Christ?
Yeah.
And so if you go out to my website, wesleyfarnsworth.com/start. Okay.
Okay.
And plug in your email address there. I will send you a guide instantaneously. I've got it already set up to go. It'll come out to you, and it's a PDF that I break down exactly what I do. But I'm going to give them to you here free of charge. So if you can't write these down, you can go out there and get the PDF copy. But there's 4 things. Okay. Number 1, be in the Word. Read scripture of some kind every day. If it's not reading the Bible, then maybe it's a devotional. I have some Facebook groups that I'm in, or some Facebook pages, that I follow, that every day they put out a new scripture. And so when I log into Facebook in the mornings, it's in my alerts, and I click on it, and then there's a scripture right there that I'm able to read, and they've got a little devotional that goes with it. It's wonderful. But be in the scripture every day. Number 2 is cut out the secular music and only listen to Christian music. But I like so and so's artists. I like
just
cut it out. Cut it out.
Yeah.
Because music has a way of burrowing itself down into your soul, even when you don't even realize it. And music is one of those things that transcends culture. It transcends political parties. It transcends everything. And so when you cut out the secular music and you only listen to Christian music, now the scripture, the themes behind scripture, and those messages are being planted and watered deep within your soul. And you have them available.
I'm sorry, man. We got about a minute left, so just want to
cool. Let me run through.
Get cut off.
So that would be number 2, music. Yep. Number 3 is prayer. Prayer is an everyday thing, not a holiday and dinner time, mealtime thing. Pray all day, every day. And then number 4 is the community. Surround yourself with a community that's going to speak life into you and not keep you from the direction that you want to go in your life. So those would be the 4 things. Go out to my website, wesleyfarnsworth.com/start. Plug your email in. It'll get forwarded. It'll be fired right off over to you, along with some other freebies that I've got set there that you can use, and some devotionals that I've written to help encourage you as you walk this road. But know that you're not alone. Most importantly, you are not alone. You are loved, and you are not defined by your past. You are only defined by who you say you are and who God says you are. And there are people out there that want to support you and love you. So take advantage of it.
I love that. I'm going to just leave that website up there, man. If you guys, I didn't create a QR code for that one, so sorry, you have to write it down this time. But if you can go to his, I bet you can access it through the QR code too. It's just an extra step maybe, but man, hey, I'm gonna take actually so we can. Man, Wesley, thank you for being here, man. Thank you for your story, and thank you for today and your time. And I love it. I love what you're doing, and I'm so thankful that we got to do this. So, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. I love being able to do things like this, and I appreciate the opportunity to come in and share my story a little bit, and hopefully I was able to encourage somebody else in their own walk.
Awesome. Beautiful. All right, everybody. That was cool. I'm telling you, I always learn something new every day, every single show. It's great. What a great show. I thank you for being here. Thank you for being an amazing part of the show for so long. And thank you for watching. And join us for our next show on Tuesday, January 20th. And until then, have an amazing day, and we'll see you soon.